From player to predator, a horror awakening. John had always been a fan of horror games, but he had never imagined he would find himself in the middle of one. One moment he was sitting in his living room, controller in hand, and the next he was standing in the dark and ominous Freddy Fazbear's makeup Pizzaplex. At first John was terrified. The animatronics that had once been the staff of nightmares on a screen were now real and walking towards him. But as the initial shock wore off, John began to feel a sense of power and control. He had always thought that William Afton, the main antagonist of the Five Nights at Freddy's series, was a monster, but now he was determined to prove that he could be even worse. John went on a murder spree, killing every person he came across. He didn't care about the screams or the blood. He only cared about outdoing Afton, and he did. The bodies piled up, and John's actions were even more horrific than Afton's ever were. But as John stood in the middle of the mega Pizzaplex, surrounded by the corpses of the people, he heard a whisper. "I never thought I would see anything more horrifying than myself." But the voice said, "But you've proven me wrong." John turned to see a digital version of William Afton, now known as Glitchtrap. The sight of him made John's skin crawl, but he refused to show fear. "I can help you get back home," Glitchtrap said, "but you had to stop this. You've gone too far." John thought about it for a moment. He had proved his point, but he was also starting to feel the weight of what he had done. He didn't want to be a monster like Afton. "Okay," John said, "I'll stop." Glitchtrap nodded and led John to a secret room in the mega Pizzaplex. Inside there was a large animatronic that John had never seen before. "This is your way out," Glitchtrap said, "but first you had to do something for me." John nodded, expecting Glitchtrap to ask for something in return. "I want you to melt the corpses and fuse them together into one big heap," Glitchtrap said, and shoved them into the animatronic. John was horrified, but he didn't have a choice. He did as Glitchtrap asked, and as the last of the corpses were fused together, the animatronic came to life. "Now step inside," Glitchtrap said. John hesitated for a moment and then stepped inside the animatronic. The world around him began to fade away, and he felt himself being transported back to his own world. And when John opened his eyes, he was back in his living room. Controller in hand, he looked around, expecting to see the aftermath of his actions, but everything was just as he had left it. John realized that it had all been a dream, but the memories of what he had done still haunted him. He knew he could never play Five Nights at Freddy's again while thinking about the monster he had become in his dream. From that day on, John never played another horror game again, knowing that he could never handle the darkness that came with it. He had learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of powers and the consequences of one's actions. Hey there, fantasy and science fiction fan lovers. If you can't get enough of mystical realms, futuristic worlds, and thrilling adventures, then you come to the right place. By subscribing to Fantasy and Science Fiction at Story Nori, you gain access to an amazing collection of stories that will transport you to realms beyond your imagination. By hitting that subscribe button, you'll never miss out on the latest tales of wizards, time travels, space exploration, and so much more. Our channel is dedicated to bringing you the best in fantasy and science fiction storytelling, and we're always adding new and exciting content for you to enjoy. But that's not all. By subscribing, you'll be also becoming part of our incredible community of fellow fantasy and sci-fi enthusiasts. You'll be first to know about the latest content for the channel that you won't find anywhere else. So what are you waiting for? Join us on this epic journey into the unknown by subscribing to Fantasy and Science Fiction at Story Nori. Today, your next thrilling adventure awaits. Right, hit that subscribe button and let the storytelling begin. Thank you for being part of our amazing community. We can't wait to share even more incredible stories with you.